Welcome back to the Football Terrace. We're talking Rodrygo and Isak. Could they both be on their way to Liverpool Football Club this summer? Big, credible reports that could be true. Arsenal complete a very important deal to keep one of the most exciting young prospects in world football at their club. We're touching on the Gibbs-White situation as it gets ever more intense. Make sure you hit the like buttons. Make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Plus, we're talking Victor Gyokeres as well. Before you go any further, though, make sure like buttons have been hit. Make sure you're subscribing and the bell notification button. Get it clicked, but turn on all notifications and get the settings on your phone. Whether it's an Android, iPhone, get the notifications turned on for the YouTube app so you know when we go live. Let's do this, people. Good morning and welcome back to the Football Terrace. This is the Done Deal show where we discuss, debate, talk, and give our opinions on whether the rumours will become done deals. Let me know where you're watching from around the world. You know how much I like that from you all. I like to know where you're watching from, how you are today, what you're up to. Get that into the live chat or the comments section below. Going to start with Liverpool today, though. We have to start with Liverpool because it was a crazy day. That's the only way I can describe it. It was a crazy, crazy day. And we saw all of the news in relation to Alexander Isak and James Pearce confirming yesterday that Liverpool have communicated their interest of doing business with Newcastle. A fee in the region of 120 to 130 million is reportedly going to be the kind of asking the sort of starting position, as it were. But on top of that, for Liverpool yesterday, an even more sobering update that came out, and I want to read it to you here. And it says, and I quote, Liverpool will do everything possible to sign Rodrygo this summer. The club will send agent, is it Pini Zavahi, to Madrid in the coming days or weeks to begin official talks. But there are now strong reports that Liverpool will move heaven and earth, do everything imaginable to also sign Rodrygo. Now, what we haven't seen yet is any journalist report on both. So, for the interest of fairness, it could be Isak and they're done for the summer. It could be Rodrygo if they don't get Isak and they'll look for a striker again in future. But it also could be Isak and Rodrygo, Ekitike and Rodrygo. All the options are currently open because none have been shut down. But I think to rivals of Liverpool, I think to anybody, so Man City, Chelsea definitely, Arsenal most certainly, that want to be involved in the title race next year, the last 24 hours is sobering beyond belief. Because they've already got the title-winning squad. They've added Frimpong and Gyokeres and Wirtz. And if they're able to land Isak and Rodrygo, not just the Premier League, there are very few sides currently in world football and over the last decade in world football that could boast a lineup as strong, fluid, and adaptable as what Liverpool will have. Players that can cover multiple positions to very high levels, a world-class goalie, world-class defenders, world-class midfielders, and multiple world-class attackers, all fitting into a system that was almost perfect last season with now better quality being added. And as a United fan reading this news last night, I just laughed. All I could do was laugh. I couldn't get angry at my club. I couldn't get annoyed or salty with Liverpool. Oh, who's spending now? I just had to laugh. I just had to sit back and say to myself, this would be ridiculous. This would be crazy. This would be astronomical. This would be a generational summer. As Terry Tibbs, one of our Liverpool fans who phones him regularly, said yesterday, it would be generational. That's almost a little bit of an understatement. It would almost be beyond generational. It would be one of the greatest summers a Premier League team has ever had, aside in my lifetime, even before the Premier League, has ever had. The quality, there's the Prem proven nature, there's the best of Germany coming in. And as we looked at the other day, when you look at the most successful teams in Europe over the last decade, the vast majority of leagues they buy from, it's first of all, their own league is always top, which they're doing Liverpool. But then the next two leagues they all buy from, barring the odd anomaly, is La Liga and Germany. So the fact that they're getting the Gyokeres and the potentially Isaks, then getting Wirtz and Frimpong from Germany and Rodrygo from La Liga, they're buying from the strongest leagues. They're buying quality players from each of them. It's fantastic. You can put your tactics aside for a moment, but on paper, if this is pulled off by Liverpool, if they're able to deliver this, we are looking at something sensational to a point where, and some Liverpool fans may see this as a negative, but to a point where one trophy isn't even enough. This is a team that's got to be aiming for doubles and trebles and quads and going back to back and actually creating, because it's almost in a new team with a new manager, almost creating like a 4 or 5 year period where they're winning 3 league titles, a Champions League or 2. That would be the expectations for that squad to be seen as it did brilliantly, because you can't spend that, you can't invest that way and then do what Klopp did and win 1 league title in 8 years with that core group, right? You've got to go on and do more. And that is not a dig at Liverpool. That is me just looking at what their greatest ever side, their greatest teams did in the 70s and 80s. And when you spend like this, when you invest like this, it is to win all those major trophies. And look, Liverpool are yielding the money like the giant club they are, like the historic club they are. And it's going to be so intriguing to see what they land, who they land, what their expectations are. And then just as a football fan for a moment, how they deliver against that. That's the real key component for me. How do they deliver against it? I'm so intrigued. I really, really am. I want your thoughts and I want your opinions on this now. Let's go to some of your comments that are coming through. Arteta won none in 6. Yes, and was rightfully criticised. What are we doing here? You know, this is the thing. I respect you, Andrew. You watch every show of mine. Everybody knows that I won't just slag off Arsenal for the sake of it for attention online. But you can't compare Arsenal with Liverpool. Liverpool are a bigger club, a more historic club. Liverpool have had dynasties. Liverpool have had periods of dominance that Arsenal haven't. And Arsenal are a very successful team. So for me to talk about Liverpool aiming to emulate your greatest ever sides, which is what everybody aims to do, for you to go, but Arsenal didn't win one. What kind of mentality is that from a Liverpool fan? Come on now. Why are you? It's not an argument. It's not an argument. Let's do some more of your comments here. Liverpool have watched City and realised that putting themselves 2 or 3 seasons ahead of rivals in terms of squad building can almost guarantee trophies. Look, they're doing everything possible to put themselves ahead. This is all on paper. We've got to see it click. We've got to see it work. But I think you're right, Si. That is what they're aiming to do, is to put themselves ahead of rivals, to put themselves into a position where they cannot be caught. Isak hasn't said anything on the situation whilst rivals are acting like they know him. Look, I've got to call this out again, right? I've got to call this Isak nonsense out again. I'm going to go and find what Fabrizio said yesterday because I think it's very, very important. Fabrizio Romano yesterday said Isak didn't close the door to Liverpool. Now, and he didn't say no to Liverpool. Now, look, we gave this example yesterday. And I'm gonna use KJ as an example again. He's probably going to appear backstage now. I've said this. And if not saying no to somebody in this particular scenario shows interest, please, Hamza, let us use our brains. Let us not be delusional. Not here on the terrace. Go do it on another platform if you have to, but not here. Liverpool have clearly made contact with the camp via intermediaries. If he would have said, no, I will not join, this deal wouldn't be on. Him not saying no, him not closing the door is because there's an interest. Now, me and KJ go out on Saturday night and we're out at a bar and a young lady approaches KJ and says, hi. He'll probably first of all say hello back because you never know what they're saying hello for. And then she said, look, do you fancy having a drink with me? KJ would probably stop her mid-sentence and say, I'm married. I love my wife. He'd be very respectful, say thank you, but I'm not interested. He'd shut it down. That would be the end of it. That is KJ showing zero interest in leaving. But if KJ says, look, I'm married, but let's have a drink, or I'm married, but I can't have a drink right now because my friend's here. He's leaving soon. We'll have a little chat then. Now, he hasn't said yes to a drink, but he hasn't said no either. Now, that's a hypothetical. KJ would never do that. Let's be very, very clear. But I'm using it as a case in point. The fact Isak hasn't said no, hasn't shut this down, in my personal opinion, and I think everybody with a functioning brain, with an IQ over 85, or who isn't in denial, and I don't mean the river in Egypt, right? Denial, knows that Isak is open to this move by what is being said. But he isn't going to allow that to be publicized in case he stays, because then he's got to face the Toon army. Of course he is open. Of course he is open to this deal. And we don't need to know him. We just need to read the articles and engage our brains. Come on now. Let's be absolutely fair about this. Let's be absolutely fair about this. Terry is soft snitching. Not at all. One, I would never snitch on a mate for something like that. 110%. 110%. I've got code in that way. Do you know what I mean? I've got code. I've got friends, if they rung me now and said, what was I doing on Saturday night? I'd be like, bruv, we were playing PlayStation. We watched some old episodes of Sopranos. That's the code, right? That's the answer every time so that we always get it right. Do you know what I'm saying, right? I'd never do that to a guy, ever. Not someone I like. I wouldn't even do it to someone I dislike. I just wouldn't do it. No way. I couldn't. This here says, as an Arsenal fan, I hope they get Isak with their current squad. This will make it financially easier to get Rodrygo. And if we get Eze along with Gyokeres and beat Liverpool to either the Premier League or Champions League, wow, what a season. Vamos. But that's the attitude to have, I think, when the dust settles. If I was an Arsenal fan looking at this, I'd be thinking, can you imagine beating Liverpool to the Premier League title now that they've gone and bought these players, now that they've invested this money? Could you imagine? It's an even bigger accolade as an example. And that's why I always say to people, sometimes play the long game when it comes to the banter or the analysis. Go, yeah, okay, we're not going to win it. Impossible to win it. Liverpool are definitely winning it. Especially if you fancy your chances still, just hold on to that. Keep collecting receipts. And then, one, if it doesn't go your way, you said we weren't going to win it anyway. Secondly, because everybody strives to be first in the banter world. I've got to be first. I've got to say it first. Sometimes pace yourself. Pace yourself, young man, is what I would say. But look, for me, I'm dropping the fact I'm a Man United fan for a moment because it depresses me when it comes to the title race. As a football fan, as the host of the first ever neutral football fan channel in the world, okay, that brought all the big teams together in this way, I'm excited about the Premier League season. I love what I do for a job. I love my mixed community. And yeah, it's going to be absolutely amazing. There's no doubt about that. Terry's midget parties were legendary. I've seen all that about you, Mal. I've got to say I'm very ignorant on the matter. Is it illegal to hire small people for parties and stuff? Genuine question. Because I was looking in last summer at hiring like a clown for my daughter's birthday. And on the website were dwarf clowns or clowns that came with dwarf helpers. And we didn't do it because we just decided to do a completely different type of party. But is it illegal? Is hiring dwarfs illegal? I don't know. Because Yamal's getting into a... Thank you. Cheers. Yamal, thank you. Yamal, look, I wouldn't do it myself. Depends what they're doing, I suppose. Like, we've all seen Wolf of Wall Street where they're throwing them at targets. I wouldn't personally participate. But a lot of people hire, like, dwarves... And I think you can still say that word, right? If I've misspoke, I'm sorry. They handcuff the people for stag do's and things. There are male strippers that are dwarfs. I've seen them online. I'm not a subscriber, but I've seen like little ladies that do OnlyFans. Is that hiring them if you pay? I don't know the rules anymore. I don't know the rules. But anyway, we're going to move on because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I'm a midget. How much are you paying? How much are you offering yourself out for? And that's for hiring for a clown, by the way, not OF. Right? I just want to put that out there to everybody. Are you meant to say small people? Is that right? Is that right? I don't know if that's right. Someone Google it and find out for me. I don't want it on my search engine. Turn your VPNs on and get it done, people. You never know in this day and age. Do you know what I mean? I might lose my livelihood in 12 years because of what I've just said now. You know what the world's like. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But yeah, look, I think that when it comes to this Rodrygo and Isak to Liverpool deals, they're plausible. They're on. They can most certainly happen. But I want your thoughts and I want your opinions on them in the live comments section below, people. It didn't get X-rated. You think that conversation was X-rated? Come on. Vertically challenged. See, am I a bit old school in thinking calling somebody vertically challenged is more offensive than using the word dwarf? I don't know why. The same as, I think, like bald people, you could call them like follically challenged. Just say bald. Do you know, I'm overweight still, right? I'm fat. I'm overweight. I'm fat. It's just what I don't understand the world anymore. I don't understand it. Getting too old. I'm getting too old. It's little people. See, that sounds so pathetic. Oh, hello, little people. It just sounds, I don't get little people. How about people? How about, see, I mean, not little people, tall people, small people, big people, people. You know what I mean? White people, green people, polka dot people, just people. But all people have things. Do you know what I mean? I am a fat person. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going on. I'm going on. Short people. Can't be short people because my mate Dave's short. He's 5'1". Do you know what I mean? But there we go. There we go. I'm not going to tell you what his nickname is after this conversation. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Are you fat or big boned? Now I've got a bit of hunker chuck. Like I'm back in the gym now. I'm getting myself sorted, but I've got a bit. As you can see, I've got a bit of a belly. I've got a bit of a belly. Do you know what I mean? I'm fat. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Look, that's that news. I also want to speak about Arsenal for a moment because the news came out yesterday. We were going to go live, but something happened in my life. Something with my dog. So I thought I'd wait until the morning. But it was announced yesterday that Arsenal are in the final stages of talks of completing the new deal for Ethan Nwaneri. Since then, it's been updated further. And that says that Arsenal's negotiations with the Ethan Nwaneri representatives are understood to be in the final stages. The deal was considered done. There was a Fabrizio update which said, and why can't I find it now, that Arsenal have reached an agreement in principle with Ethan Nwaneri. So the deal is done. That's what a principal deal means for me. You've agreed the deal. When it completes is when you sign it. But it's going to be done. It's going to be over the line. Ethan Nwaneri is going to stay. And I alluded to this last week, but I wanted to take a little bit of time again to speak about it because I think for me, this was one of the... I've discussed this on many occasions about Man United this summer, where Man United fans can be angry, and then a false story or a story that has little legs to it or a story that never transpires can spark a fire. It's like a forest fire, really dry. It's a bit of a tinderbox. It could go up at any moment. And then a little spark, a little nothing can create an inferno. And I feel that Ethan Nwaneri potentially leaving Arsenal added a spark that engulfed a small bush that almost led to a forest fire. I was watching Arsenal content, and it was good content, but the outrage and the venom and the vile words being spoken towards their manager, Berta, their owners, over a story that we spoke about it because it was put out there that Chelsea hold an interest, and we spoke about it, but a story that had no real legs at all led to such outrage. But yet, since it's been announced that the agreement in principle is in place, highly likely a new deal is signed, I'm not seeing the same vim. I'm not seeing the same reaction. I'm not seeing retractions of what people stated. I'm not seeing you know what? Probably shouldn't have called my manager this, my manager that. Probably shouldn't have said this about the player and done this and done that. Nothing. And I've seen this with Garnacho last week. I saw people calling my manager a simp, no backbone. He's gone back on his word. He'll lose the dressing room. We're a disgrace. Turns out now the players are not turning up to training until 5 p.m. Not the people that tweeted about it. No tweets retracting what they said. No quote tweet of the original tweet saying, turns out this wasn't true. Fair play to Ruben. Just leaving it there. And I'm not a fan of that. Now, we can't all retract everything we've ever said based on opinions. And I understand that. But it's the frequency of it. When the bad news comes out, or potential bad news, the world's coming to an end, very rarely addressed in the other direction. And I'm not a fan. So I thought I would take some time to say, we spoke about this deal of him potentially going to Chelsea. It isn't going to happen. He's going to stay at Arsenal. He's a phenomenal talent. And I do think this is a really good bit of business for Arsenal Football Club. I would like personally to see him get a little bit more game time. I would like personally to see him get a little bit more exposure in the first team. But overall, I think it's a fantastic piece of business. I really, really do think it's a fantastic piece of business to keep him renewing contracts. And I've been talking about this with Arsenal for a few years. I felt was one of Arsenal's biggest weaknesses. It was a kryptonite to them as a football club for many a year. Whether it was about the length of contracts or paying the going rate for players, demonstrating an ambition. And you can go as far back as the Patrick Vieiras of this world that left the better part of 20 years ago. This continued for many, many years, where Arsenal would sign someone good, develop somebody good. And if they got to a certain level, they would rarely match the ambition or at least the salary that those players warranted. And you would see them leave to go to multiple other clubs around Europe and be successful. That has been addressed to us to a large degree at Arsenal, not just with the length of contracts and the renewals for the people like Saka, but it's also the salary they're being paid. It competes with the other big clubs, the other giant clubs in Europe. And that's important because you're never keeping Saka if you're only prepared to give him 150 a week. You're never keeping somebody of that talent. You're not going to keep Declan Rice when he comes around to renewal if you don't offer him the going rate for one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And that's something they've learned from. But they've kept another good young player. I'm not too sure what the pay increase will be, but it will be a sensible amount for a player with the game time that he has had. But it would also be an amount that won't be turning his head. And it's about focusing now on getting him to that next level, getting him developing more. As I've already said, I think a little bit more exposure to game time is most certainly needed for Ethan Nwaneri. Aside from that, look, a lot of people keep saying, Terry, heard anything about the Gyokeres deal? The agreement is there in principle, according to David Ornstein, and I'm trusting Ornstein on this more than any other source. I've got a great deal of respect for what Fabrizio does. Obviously, I talk to Ben Jacobs on a regular basis, and I'm not even sure what their updates on this are. But I trust implicitly David Ornstein on this deal. He's the only 100% I trust him. And he has said that there is an agreement in principle. There's an agreement in principle. There are a few reports that there's still a differential on the amount. I don't think that's true. I think that's media talk. I think what they're looking at now is payment structures. I think what they're now looking at is crossing I's and dotting T's, more so than anything else. They're also working on multiple deals at the same time, Arsenal. Ethan Nwaneri's new deal. There's the centre-back Mosquera, who's coming in. They've started preliminary conversations with the likes of Eze's camp and Crystal Palace. And I wouldn't be surprised if they've got a little bit of focus right now on Rodrygo, especially with the likes of Man City and more so Liverpool showing an interest. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's any day now. It's any day now. It's any moment now. The Gyokeres deal is going to be announced as here we go. That I'm very sure about, not because I'm involved, just by the frequency of deals, the credibility of journalists that are involved. And I know Arsenal fans are going to want to see the here we go. And until the here we go lands, that there will always be an apprehension, a frustration, and maybe a little bit of anxiety. But I think overall, I don't think there's very much to worry about at all when it comes to that deal. The one deal, we're going to talk about the next one a little bit more on Straight Facts this afternoon. So please make sure that you are all tuning in for that. That'll be around between 3:15 and 3:30 with Hussam and Mo. But there is a story that's come out today that I've got to read more about because I haven't read too much about it yet. So because I haven't read too much about it yet, I need to make sure that I go through the story in more detail. But there's a couple of deals around Chelsea, but one of them is that they could be making a move for Eze. There's also a potential for Morgan Rogers as well. So it says Chelsea have held new talks with Eze's agent, is what Simon Phillips has said. Now, Simon Phillips is very credible when it comes to Chelsea, and he's not known for just making up nonsense and lies. But he's also spoke about on a separate podcast that I was listening to. Oh, sorry, no, he didn't. It was Matt Law that said this, that Villa are looking at Nico Jackson. And if they sign Nico Jackson, it's believed that it would trigger an immediate bid for Morgan Rogers. So what this tells me about just reading both those stories is what it tells me is that Chelsea are looking at both options. I've got a gut feeling that Morgan Rogers is higher on the priority list than Eze, but they're looking at both. This may prompt Arsenal to have to move a little bit faster, which is why they might put Gyokeres on the back burner for a few days, potentially, because they've got it secured. It's minor details to sort out. And if Chelsea genuinely are now showing an interest in Eze, if Villa say we're not selling Watkins, we're not buying Jackson, we're not selling Morgan Rogers for that reason, Chelsea might pivot away and look at an Eze. So maybe Arsenal focus on that. But yeah, very interesting one there. And I said this after they won the Club World Cup. With the money they got from that, the money from the Champions League. By the way, they had a huge amount of income come in last year through selling their women's team. And I've stated all along when it comes to Chelsea, and I've spoke about their financial problems because they did create them with the amount they spent short term, that they had them. They had financial problems, and it cannot be denied. Some Chelsea fans will pretend they didn't, but they did. But they found excellent loopholes around it by selling assets to themselves. Plus, what I stated in every single one of those videos, and I stand on it to this day, and I'm proven right again when it comes to the finances, is as long as they made it into the Champions League, Chelsea were going to be okay. And they've done that. Beyond that, they've also gone and got over 100 million in from the Club World Cup. And there's no way that Clearlake are going to stand on ceremony. There is no way that Clearlake are not going to add more talent, add more quality, and better players to this Chelsea squad. It was never going to happen. It isn't going to happen. They are going to buy better. They're going to look at goalkeepers. They're going to look at better attacking midfield options because they want strength in depth. You've already got Gittins who's going to be joining this team. They're going to spend more money. I also wouldn't be surprised if they did something a little bit left field. And I'm not trying to trigger Chelsea fans here, but I mean this. I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of Lavia or loaned him out and bought a more reliable version. Lavia, when he plays, is amazing. He makes Chelsea better. But he's had 2 years at the club? And he barely kicks a ball. Even during the Club World Cup, had to be on the bench and didn't really kick a ball because of injuries. I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea now look at that and say, do you know what? As brilliant as he is, we've got all this extra money. Can we find a player in the market? Can we find a player that can give us what Lavia does, but he can play 80%, 90%, 95%, 100% of the time, rather than 20% of the time? Because as Daniel, one of our first Chelsea fans on the Football Terrace, big up Daniel if you're watching, brother. You know, he coined this phrase for me before I heard anybody else say it. It may not be his phrase, but I heard him say it first. Availability is the best ability. And when Lavia is out injured, you might as well have Frank Lampard back. Frank Lampard at 40-odd years old is better than an injured Lavia. if you understand the point that I'm making here. So keep an eye out for Chelsea. Chelsea Football Club could do a lot more business this summer. But some of that may be selling. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, again, the only thing I don't know if they would do, it's salary. It's the salary element. So I'm not sure if they go for a Rodrygo. I'm not sure if they try and hijack Isak, as an example, because of the salary that's needed. I don't think they need another striker right now, by the way. But I don't think they'll do that. But yeah, definitely one to watch. What we're going to do, people, is we're going to share the link in the live chat for you in just a moment. I've just got to open up a document so I can share that. The lads on Stretford Paddock have been saying that for years. Oh, they may have done. I'm not 100% saying it was definitely Daniel's saying, but in fairness, Daniel's been saying that. Daniel said that on here about 8 years ago. So it could be. I don't know. You know, I'm not looking for beef over sayings, Lou. I'm not looking for beef over sayings. I said it first. Because you end up moving like David Brent. If you've never watched The Office, you won't get it. Where I think somebody says, like, same shit, different day. And he's like, you stole that saying from me. Like he made it up. I love that show. Terry, that quote is from Bill Parcells, the Dallas Cowboys coach. A player's best ability is availability. Okay, well, there we go. Again, as I said, I'm not sure if Daniel invented it, but he's the person that I heard coin the phrase in the social media space. So there we go. Thank you for educating me on that. I appreciate it, people. Morning, Smith. Hope you're well. Morning, Maradon. Hope you're good, brother. Hope you're well indeed. No to Isak. Oh, why do people keep saying no to Isak? Like it's going to make a difference. I don't mean this rudely. Isak ain't going to listen to the fans. You know, he's going to listen to, I don't know if he's got a missus. He's going to listen to his missus, his family, his heart, and his bank balance. That is what he's going to listen to. He's not going to listen to a hashtag no to Isak. And are you a Liverpool fan saying that as well? Please tell me why you don't want him. I've realized we've got Rob Ladd coming on a minute. I've been looking at a picture of Rob. When I say I've been looking at a picture of Rob Ladd, that sounds mad. But looking at his profile picture, he really looks like Mr. Beast. I realized he looks like Mr. Beast. No, he does. He's got a Mr. Beast look about him. Look at his profile picture. Leave us a comment in the comment section, please, Rob. I swear he looks a little bit like Mr. Beast. If Mr. Beast was better looking, is what I'm saying. There's a compliment in there as well. So, yeah. Let's go to a few of these super chats before we do calls. Are we getting the Invermo deal? What do I think? Yes. Look, I know this is going to upset Staffy. I know Staffy is going to get annoyed with me because, oh, you're saying two things at once. You're sitting on the fence. Of course, there's a chance it collapses because there always is. So I am objectively open to the idea that I could be wrong in my personal opinion, which is I think the deal will happen. I'm a little bit annoyed, like everybody else, that it's taken so long. I do want it to be done sooner. But I stand, Abel, on everything I was saying yesterday on socials. I see people celebrating the idea that we're going to give Sancho a severance package. And I said it's terrible business if we're doing it. You're mad. We've got to get rid of him. Some people said, well, at least we get some money. True. If they pay us 15 million and we pay like a 4 or 5 million severance, we don't make any money, but we do save around 13 million pound in his salary, which can be invested into a new player, granted. That's better than a loss. Absolutely. It's not the worst case scenario, but I'm very conscious and very worried about the player power precedent it sets again. And I don't care how arrogant I sound right now. I don't care how annoyed people get with me. I've been right about, this is something I haven't been given a certificate like Staffy, but this is something I've been right about from day one. From day one, when we've been talking about player power at Man United, from the second we didn't allow Jose Mourinho to move players on, I've called these situations almost perfectly. Every time we let players get what they want, where they end up winning, it sets another precedent for the remaining dressing room. And we haven't been able, for the better part of a decade now, to eradicate player power. And this is where I'm being objective. I think it's a mistake, all right? But I'll subjectively back it and go, okay, cool. Because I'll always move on from things quickly. I won't dwell on things. I think it's very unhealthy. Turns your hair grey too young. Not good for you. Bad for your health. But what I'm very mindful of and very fearful of is that it sets that precedent. Because then if we do, then, okay, Rashford will pay you off. Oh, Anthony, then we pay you off. All right, listen, Garnacho will sell you a little bit cheaper. All right, mate, off you go. Then you're not losing. Then you're not just losing 10. Because we'd save 13 million, but we would be losing off this deal an additional 15 million. If we then lose an additional 15 million off every single deal that we're selling, the main players we're selling, you're then looking at a grand total of 60 million pound less to invest on players. How the fuck is that good? Secondly, and maybe more importantly, we are letting the rest of that remaining dressing room know, if I struggle this year and I want to go, they'll pay me off. Which means next year, there's a high probability that we lose more money on sales. Which, guess what happens then? It means every sale that you want done faster becomes slower. Why? Because we've got to be more prudent with money. Because we've got financial problems. And one of the worst ways of getting out of a financial problem is spending more money and losing more money. So as much as people, with very short-termism when it comes to Man United, yeah, Sancho's gone, woo, buy a new player. We are not, the expression I would use is we know the price of everything, but the cost of nothing when it comes to transfers collectively as a Man United fan base. And for years, I've spoken about this stuff, and we're still seeing my predictions come true now, and I'm fearful of it. So yes, it'd be nice to move him on and hopefully invest in a new player, but I am so hopeful. If we don't eradicate player power, by the way, we're never challenging for a league title. We're never winning a league title. I don't care who fucking owns us. We could have literally the Sheikh and Roman Abramovich could do a collaboration and own us again. We could get a DeLorean and fly Fergie back from 1999 to manage us again. We ain't winning with player power at the club. Not on your Nelly, my old mate. Won't happen. Won't happen. But there we go. Liverpool left wing needs a reset. They need Eze and Rodrygo. Listen, I think if Arsenal get Eze, but this is where the conversations are gonna chop and change, right? So, for instance, if Arsenal get themselves Isak and Rodrygo, people go, it's over, it's done. If Liverpool end up with Ekitike, but Arsenal end up with Gyokeres, Eze, and Rodrygo, maybe everybody makes Arsenal favourites. That's what I love about the transfer window. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Imagine not enjoying it. You ain't fat till you have a decent physique. Oh, thank you. But I got the fat. Although I do have shape on my arms, right? And this PT was saying to me, well, at least you ain't got fat arms. A lot of people think they've got big arms, but if you can't see your shoulder, if you can't see your bicep, if you can't see your tricep, then it's not big, it's fat. And I was like, oh, at least I ain't got fat arms. You are not fat. You are big bone. Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, people, make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Please make sure you're subscribing to us as well. And many of you have subscribed in the last few days. But even more importantly than both of those things, there's a little bell button that you can see here. Get that turned on. Turn on all notifications and make sure the settings on your phone are switched on. I also want to thank as well all of our recent and new members to the Football Terrace. I do want to see a few more of you, though, using the membership emojis. We don't use them enough. It's like you guys forget they're there unless I'm posting them, right? And if you do want to become a member, we've posted a link in the live chat for that as well. It'd be great if you would. We've got all these exclusive emojis you can use and brand new ones as well. You've got the confused emoji. There's mic drops. We've got the shut up emoji. We've got the parrot when people just parroting nonsense. We've got the mosquito for Don. We've got here. We've got the hug in case somebody's feeling sad in the chat. What else have we got here? We've got breaking news. We've got one with me with glasses on. I don't really remember why we made that. What else have we got in here? We've got roast chicken for if someone's getting roasted, if someone's getting cooked. Well, we've got a troll. We've got the troll emoji. You guys have got to start using these a little bit more, please. As many of you that are members, start getting them used now, please, people. That would be amazing. Right, we're going to go to calls. I'm going to put my earphones on because it's great when you guys are talking because I get to drink my tea. Right. And I want to say as well, because I got called out for this the other day, sometimes you won't see me like looking at the camera whilst you're talking. It is because I'm making sure the stream's working. I'm time stamping for when you're speaking. I'm also checking on news that's breaking. I am listening. I am interested. I am just doing something which they say men can't do, which is multitasking. So if you're ever in an argument with your missus, men can't multitask. Just make her watch Terry Flewers. Not by herself. That'd be weird. Show her the scenes. Show her talking to you lot. Go, look, he's multitasking. Don't just say go and watch him because you might lose her. No, I'm joking. That would never happen. That would never happen. That's a joke. That's a joke. See, right now I'm checking the news because I have you guys, by the way, if you're using Twitter to keep up to date with news, use X Pro, or it used to be called TweetDeck, and I have Fabrizio, Ornstein, Jacobs. I have the United Stand. I have Transfer News Live. I have Simon Phillips on my feed. I have AFC stuff. I have a Liverpool aggregator as well, and they're all on my screen, and then they're all updated once. I ain't got to search for nothing. It's so beautiful. It's the best thing I've ever seen Twitter invent. It's amazing. Right, time for the calls. Time for me to stop talking and bring on the most important people in the Football Terrace. You lot. Behind KJ. KJ is very important too. Who are we bringing on first? We're going to bring on Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is coming on to have his say with us now. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. You do look like Mr. Beast. I think it's the hair. It's the hair. I'm good, though.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time someone said that, to be fair. I had someone on holiday once come up to me and say, you look like, I didn't know who Mr. Beast was. So that kind of puts me, it shows my age, I think, with that one.
I was on holiday with a good friend of mine called Jason. And at the time, he was one of the best in the country, David Beckham lookalikes. And we were in Turkey. And we were in this shop, and most of the shops in the touristy beach towns don't sell real designer clothes. It's all fake. And we're in there looking like fake designer glasses. And genuinely, the guy that owned the shop thought it was David Beckham. So he shut the shop and just let him shop by himself. And we just laughed afterwards because I was like, imagine thinking Beckham is shopping for £3.50 sunglasses. But it was great. The crowds outside were mad. It was a great day.
I would take being like the looks of David Beckham over Mr. Beast. No offense to that guy.
This is true. This is true. No, but yeah, there we go. But what are you here to say today, mate? What are you here to say?
So I watched your show last night, and I forget the guy's name who was on with LB, but Aaron. Aaron. So I just wanted to come on and actually shine some positivity on Arsenal. I feel like some of the guests and panelists that you have on, I don't know why, I just seem to have this sort of almost like an ultra negative opinion on how we are and where we are sometimes. I felt like he really like some of the stuff just felt OTT. And again, this is obviously
give me an example. What did you think was over the top from Aaron yesterday?
So I think he said stuff like he said that the Arsenal fan base were a joke and that the standards are on the floor and Arteta's not good enough and no one's buying Zinchenko because he's on these wages. And then he was like comparing Zinchenko to when he played for City. And the difference is that obviously what I found was that the reason Zinchenko is not good enough in the team anymore is because we have actually got better, right? He came in along with Jesus and a couple of others. The ceiling went up and the team got better. We started, getting into the top 4 regularly. And now we're actually like a victim of our own success. And I say success in the terms of like where we're finishing and where we are in the league and stuff like that. Not everything has to be based on trophies. And these players are now not good enough to get into the first team, which I think actually is a really good indication of how far Arteta has sort of taken us. That those players only a few seasons ago came in and really raised the levels, and now they can't get in the team. And that's kind of a really good sort of indication of how far Arteta's kind of taken us. And I think as well, last season, he said the standards were on the floor, which I thought was really like, that was the one that really irked me, because I was like, when Arteta came in, we were 10th. We hadn't been in the UCL for 5+ years. We were regularly getting slapped up by Liverpool, Chelsea, City every season. Now we haven't lost to a top 6 team in a few seasons. We've been in 2 very close title races, scoring the most amount of goals we've ever scored in a season, getting the most amount of points we've ever got in a season. And apparently we're regressing under Arteta and he's not good enough. I understand the frustrations with last season, and I understand people's frustrations with the manager and not winning trophies. Just because I have these opinions doesn't necessarily mean that I think the club and I think that Arteta are perfect. I certainly don't think that. I was critical of them in January. I think that Arteta makes a few, has made and still does make some interesting substitution choices. He's not without fault. This is where it kind of gets that sort of grey area where if you think that the manager is okay and you're happy for him to continue just because he hasn't won the league, you're suddenly like saying that he's infallible and he's totally untouchable, which I don't agree with. But I think there needs to be some sort of balance.
Yeah, can I jump in for a second? Because I hear your frustration in that. Let me ask you a few questions here. I think language is key. And when I say language is key, we often overly focus, and I went through this yesterday, and it's why I'm going to be cooking Staffy on Friday, Straight Facts. We had an hour's debate in our group chat, over both of us having a different interpretation of what a word means. So he thinks that I backed Erik ten Hag staying because I said I was going to objectively back it. Where I think saying I objectively are backing it is that I'm not going to kick off and cry and moan every day. I'm going to give it time to see if it works. Even though I think it will fail, I'm going to be open-minded to being wrong. Where he sees it as, no, you're getting on board with it. Cool. We'll have a conversation about that, and I'll explain why I think he's wrong, and he'll say why he thinks I'm wrong. But I see that in the Arsenal fan base, and you did it when you were speaking, where you said, I think we're victims of our own success. Someone who doesn't like Arteta goes, they straight away stop listening to you because they go, that's not success. So it's a case of, but you're focusing too much on Rob saying success. Because if Rob would have said we're victims of our own progression, which is what you mean when you say success, they'd probably not argue as much. And I think sometimes language is important. But I always say this, it's not what you say, it's why you say it. It's not what you do, it's why you do it. So when you say our success, well, what do you mean by your success? Once you explain it, that should temper what people say, because you definitely still want to go on and win trophies. But let me ask you a question. Do you think some of the standard FC guys, and maybe you've called out Aaron, so we'll put Aaron into that category for a moment, who sort of said if Arteta wins the Champions League, he'll let him have another crack at it. Do you think if a manager came in that they loved from day one, they were buzzing about, do you think they'll maintain their standards, or do you think they will create new ones based on their subjective view of a manager?
I think it's that's a tricky one. The standards thing, like, I think it irks me most because I know from, like, I just haven't listening to that Aaron guy yesterday. I'm like, he would 100%, if we had won an FA Cup last season, for example, or in a couple of seasons beforehand, that would not be good enough. He would still be like, where are the standards? Where are the standards? If we'd won the Carabao Cup last season, that's not good enough. The goalposts will constantly shift for these people because it's not good. It's not good enough. I've been an Arsenal fan for nearly 30 years, right? And I don't just watch football just to win all the time. Like, it's a big part of football, don't get me wrong, but football is a moment sport. And for me, last season we had so many great moments, and then I hear like Dan Potts come on and go, like, we talk about how we beat Real Madrid home and away and what a great moment that was, and he's like, we didn't get a trophy for that. I'm like, do you even enjoy football for the same, like, for anything other than the trophies?
I agree with you on that, because often I have to think back to when I was younger, before I started making content. I don't remember in my life. So now youngsters might say it because they're hearing influencers say it online. But as a kid, as a young adult, as a man working and going to football regularly, someone who had a season ticket for many years at Manchester United, I can't remember a single conversation, and I would have had tens of thousands about football, a single person who enjoyed a match being won. When Man United beat Arsenal 8-2, I don't remember a single Man United fan say, yeah, but we didn't win a trophy for it. In fact, we didn't win the league that year, and it's still a game that we banter Arsenal about now.
Perfect
so that's
example.
why I don't. Winning trophies is important, but why I don't think it's everything in football and nothing else matters is that result was what 15 plus or odd years ago, maybe a bit less than that. It's still discussed now. I still buzz when I watch the highlights from it. It didn't win us a trophy. We didn't win the league. It didn't win the league that year as an example. And there are many a result like that. There's many a results that I've sat there and listened to, say, Arsenal fans who say winning's all that matters talk about. But they talk about results or games in seasons where they didn't win the league. And I'm like, well, why do you love that game so much from 30 years ago when you didn't win the league, when you did it?
So like,
so
Barcelona.
I get your point. Yeah.
And like, if we were going to go by that logic, 90% of football wouldn't matter to anyone because not everyone wins a trophy, right? There's plenty of teams in this league. There's 19 other teams in this league that aren't going to win the Prem this year. Doesn't mean they're going to have an unenjoyable season or whatever. Like, I still talk about Euro 96, and that's looked at fondly as an England fan. We didn't win that tournament, but what a tournament it was, you know what I mean? So that's where my sort of like frustration with these guys sometimes comes in. I feel like we have
Rob. Yeah. Sorry to interject. I hear you. I'm going to ask Aaron a few more questions because I don't know enough about Aaron because I've only just started working with him. I'd love to, and it isn't right or wrong. Listen, I also say that people are entitled to view it in that way. I just don't. What I would never want is for football fans to be a monolith and us all to view it the same way. The only thing I push back on it, as you've said already, and as I said before, is I just don't remember people viewing football that way. And it isn't that you're wrong to change your mind. The question I have is, when and why did you change your mind? When did it change for you? I'd love to know. So I'll ask him that question. Listen, Rob, thanks for coming on, mate. Great call. Top man.
Anytime, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Next on the show, Tom Little's here. What are you saying, bro?
Hello, mate. I didn't think I'd be here today because, I thought it was going to be a little bit quiet. I didn't realise that Liverpool Football Club had now decided to just start spending a load of money and spoiling the fan base like you've never seen before. I've lost what I can do now. I can't do net spend anymore.
Yeah, net spend's done. But you guys are seriously looking, and there's some credible journalists saying you're in for Rodrygo. There's some credible journalists saying that the Isak deal's there. And, you and I have pretty much shared the same view on the Isak deal the whole time, that it is doable. But you're already excited about next season. You must be like on the edge of losing your mind with these stories that have come out.
My football club's potentially about to put together the best front four on the planet in one window. They're going to have the best number 10 in the planet, arguably, for the last couple of years. The best player in the Premier League for the past 8 years, the best striker in the Premier League last season, and one of the best wingers on the planet who's been used out of position for the past 3 years, all together at the same time, with a Cody Gakpo who can get you 25 goals in a season when he plays, with a Chiesa who, if he gets a little bit more game time, and then you can factor in the rest of the team. It's incredibly scary for the rest of the league. I get why rivals are all on edge now, going, "Oh, no, they're crap anyway. They're overrated." I'd be terrified of this team. I'd be terrified if I had to go up against a team that had just won the league and then went and bought 3 of the best attackers in the world to just fill it out to go alongside the best attacker in the league already. I'd be terrified that the whole Rodrygo thing, I've been liked him for years now. I thought he was going to Arsenal. Arsenal fans have been telling me all summer that he's going to pick London. He'd obviously pick London. He'd pick Arsenal over anyone else. And it turns out that we just swoop in there and all of a sudden his head's turned already. It's almost like winning, get having the top players, getting the honours, showing that you can be there and do it and have the medals for it carries a little bit of weight. In the Isak thing, like you said, me and you both thought that this summer something could happen. So something could happen with it. It'd take a lot of money, and I don't think that's not what can be lost here. You've got to remember this, that we're going to break, if we're going to get him, we're going to break the fee that we paid for Vert already. It will be looking at minimum 130 plus. But that's the kind of move that you need to make. Liverpool, in the years gone by, when they've been in these positions, missed the opportunity to strengthen while strong. They'd climb to the top of the mountain, and then they'd sit down and wait for everyone else to usurp them again. If you had Isak, you had Vert, you had Rodrygo, alongside a Frimpong, alongside a Gyokeres, alongside a potentially Mark Gahey, that's strengthening whilst at the top like you wouldn't believe. I know on a Monday we were doing the whole who's favourites of the title, and I still had those as slight favourites. You give me Isak and Rodrygo alongside the Mark Gahey, it's comfortable favourites. I'm expecting another league title and a very, very strong Champions League run. Minimum semi-finals next year. An absolute minimum if we get all these signings through the door. And I think that's the expectation I want to have. I know the whole, under Jurgen Klopp, we played the underdog card a lot. And it worked for that squad and it worked for that manager because that was where the strength came from. But I also want to see us act like the club that we are and throw our weight round and go, yeah, I expect to win these top honours. We'll spend the big money and I expect these top honours. So if we're adding Isak and Rodrygo for the price that they're saying, it's a lot of money. But it's world-class additions. It'd be a front four where everyone is arguably all guaranteed world-class. I don't think many teams in the past 5 years could say they've got that.
I agree with what you're saying. I think I like the expectation point. You know, you can't do this and then not expect multiple major honors over a 4 or 5 year period. I think that would be absolutely crazy. I think you're also, I think you're doing the right thing in future-proofing Mo Salah. And what I mean by that is, I think if you try and go for a like for like replacement, it's going to flop. Yeah. And I think even on just on a perspective stat level, it will flop because I don't think you'll sign another right winger that will deliver like him. So what you're doing is you're adding the Vertses and Rodrigos and Isaks. Isak probably is going to be the guy to take the burden of goals away so that when he does go Mo Salah, you've already got new goal scorers and match winners. Then the new right winger comes in and yes, they're playing in his position, but there isn't this, we need someone to come in and get 40 goals, 50 GA a season. That kind of pressure on someone replacing one of your greatest ever players, maybe your greatest ever player by the time he leaves. Let's see what you win. That's a pressure that it's so smart to create a situation where you don't need someone to just replace. You don't want someone coming in to have to replace every facet of Mo Salah: goals, match-winning ability, consistency, position. It'd be nice to have someone that comes in and takes some of those goals and assists and match winners, plays in the position, but the pressure's on other key members of the squad. So I think it's very, very clever indeed.
You go into it next when Salah goes in 2 years' time, which is the most likely outcome. But you've got an Isak and you've got a Verts, and you're going, look, Salah will give you 50 goals and assists a season, but Florian Wirtz is going to give you 20. Isak is going to pick up the goal scorer mountain. So what you can do with the winger then is change how it plays, because Mohamed Salah is brilliant, but our system for the next 2 years that he's here, even if we had a Wirtz and an Isak, it will be built around Mohamed Salah. He carries that weight. Liverpool are going to build around Mohamed Salah whilst he's here, because he's still the best player in the team. But when he goes, what you do is you then, as you said, you split the mantle to other places and you can potentially change how you play beyond that point. And we could see a different setup with the wingers. We could see a different lineup with the midfield that's allowed to adapt, because whilst what we do now maximises Mo Salah, to maximise him, something has to change. And that's his defensive work. So players around him are doing a lot more defensive work to make up for the fact that he won't. When he goes in 2 years' time, most likely, we'll buy a winger who won't have that same level of stature and won't be allowed to sit there on day one and go, I can't run back. And the manager goes, okay. If he does that first day of training, the manager's going, no, you get your boots on, you are running back and forth, and it changes how we play. So Liverpool had struggled a lot of future-proofing before this. A lot of times we lost players and we were either doing guys coming in 6 months later or guys coming in who weren't the right fit. Like the biggest one was Mane with Nunes. We lost Sadio Mane, and then Diaz was seen as a bit of a replacement, and then we bought Nunes, who everyone looked at in the moment and went, yeah, there's your replacement. And neither of them have necessarily matched it in the same way. I know Diaz had a good season last year, but it wasn't Mane levels. So we're never going to find, like you said, we're never going to find a player of Mohamed Salah's level. This is one of the all-time Premier League greats. These are generational type players, but we can make up for them in the aggregate. And with an Isak, with a Rodrygo, with a Wirtz, you get that back, and then you allow this young, I'm assuming it'd be a young lad to come in. Plus, he's got 3 forwards all in their prime at that point as well. A young guy comes in with no pressure and is allowed to figure himself out and is allowed to adapt into the team. And it's the right way to operate a football club. And it's nice to see that my football club now, because we've got the right people in charge upstairs, which is the big thing I was asking for when Jurgen Klopp announced he was going. He's going to go. It's what you got to do. Make sure you get the right people in upstairs. You get them right people in upstairs. And all of a sudden, you're looking like a very serious outfit who've got ambitions beyond 1 or 2 years. This is a team that's got ambitions for 4 or 5 years easily.
I hear you there. Anton said backstage he wanted to challenge what Tom was saying.
Yeah, look, well, that all sounds really nice, and like you're putting together a FIFA team right here. I think I read the reports a little bit differently than you. The way I see it, with the Isak thing, let's talk about that, because Rodrygo, I think, is still way down the pipeline. But what I read was Newcastle have made it very clear that they are not willing to sell Alexander Isak. Like, from my perspective, I think it's more likely than not that Isak is using this as a way to get himself the bag at Newcastle. Because Fabrizio was mentioning it last night, the deal for Newcastle is very much on the table. I think there are 2 scenarios here. One scenario is you guys basically get them to back off and you take Ekitike, or they keep Isak and they're going to go pay Isak and they're going to get Ekitike anyway and have both. Like that's just that I think we're reading between the lines here, and we're assuming you're seeing it because it's like, oh wow, we're actually talking about it now. But if you actually read what Ornstein has said and what Fabrizio has said, they're still saying that the stance of Newcastle is the player is not for sale. And I get what Terry has said, like Liverpool aren't going to go in for this deal unless they know from the player that he's interested. And from my point of view, I'm just thinking, of course the player would be interested in Liverpool. I just don't think that it's necessarily his choice. And the second thing is he could be using that interest because it's going to get him more money at Newcastle. Like that's sort of my thing. So look, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I just think it's you're partying very early on in the process. Like I remember last year with Zubamendi, you guys all thought you guys were getting Zubamendi. You guys all thought you guys were getting Caicedo. You have a history of doing this. And I feel like this is the 2025 version of Liverpool coming in and being like, yeah, we're going to get a big player, and then getting a famous rejection. And Hassan will be on his channel being like, oh, I want to put a curse on Isak. I hope there's a bug in his food. Like, I'm telling you, this is the way I see it.
So I hear that. I don't think Liverpool will allow it to get to a point because from my understanding, Isak and Ekitike target 1 and 2 for us. I don't think Liverpool allow both of them to go away this summer. We need a striker this summer, so I think we're going to get target 1 or 2, whether it is Isak or Ekitike. Newcastle are never going to come out and say they want to sell Isak because then that weakens the stance. So I'm not shocked to see that Newcastle have been coming out and saying, oh, he's not for sale at any price. That's our same stance as it's been for how many months now, and we're going to play them in a front 2, even though no team plays a 4-4-2 anymore, bar Simeone's Atleti. Like, no team in the Premier League played 4-4-2 successfully since, like, 2015-16 with Leicester. So, again, it comes between reading the lines, and I'm not saying for sure we get Isak. There is a world where Newcastle go, look, we've got to pick between one or the other. Let me just keep the world-class guy, and we'll go next year, and we'll see if we can find a new guy next year. But the whole point of... I don't think Isak signs that new deal unless there's, like, a guaranteed release clause, which is like around about 100 million, because I don't see what strength he gets from signing a new deal. The money Newcastle can pay, because Newcastle want to give him a new contract, it was stated very obviously at the time that was reported, Newcastle's best offer cannot come close to Liverpool's. If Newcastle can offer 200 grand a week and make him their highest paid player in their history, Liverpool can offer 300. And he's still not even top 2 for us. So I think that's the part. The whole agent thing as well. The whole idea that this is run by agents, the whole story, that's not a good thing for Newcastle as well, because an agent's not going to start putting these stories out, contacting the top journalists, stoking the fire without more than just a word from his client. Oh, I wouldn't mind that. his client will have sat there and went, if you can make that happen, I want to really see that through. I think this is just what transfers are. It's a cat and mouse business. Newcastle want to maximise how much money they can get if they have to sell him. So if Isak comes to them privately and goes, listen, I want to move to Liverpool, they can't. They're going to want to try and make sure that out in public, it still looks like they've got a strong negotiating spot. So when it comes down to it, and we pay 140, 150, they go, look, it was out of our hands. What can we do when it's British record fees bouncing around? And like I said, there's also the world where it comes across, and they go, look, we'll keep Isak for another year. We'll have to let Ekitike go because we can't match Liverpool. And I think it's pretty obvious that if Ekitike gets to choose between being the second striker at Newcastle or the starting striker at Liverpool, I think we know which one he picks. So they have to sacrifice Ekitike for a year and then hope that by next summer, the perfect guy's available on the market, because I don't think Isak lasts more than another 12 months at Newcastle. I think he's outgrown them at that point.
Fairs. Anton, appreciate you jumping on, mate, and having your say. Thanks, my man. Thank you very much indeed. Listen, that's what we like to see, a little bit of challenge there. Cal is joining us on the show now. What are you saying, Cal? And by the way, I want to put this out there for United fans watching. So about 20 minutes ago, Ben Jacobs retweeted a tweet that the United Stand put out, quoting him about 6 days ago, that Aston Villa are interested in Alejandro Garnacho as they look to strengthen their left-hand side. There's a couple more journalists are now pushing that story. So let's see what happens in that space for Manchester United. And we'll probably cover that more this afternoon on Straight Facts with Mo and Hussam. But Cal, obviously some interesting news today for Liverpool. They're looking at what Isak was your target. You've gone for Gyokeres. They're looking at Rodrygo. There's talk of Chelsea coming in for Eze as well. So a little bit of jeopardy now, my friend.
Yeah. I'm not one of those fans who are super upset about Isak going to Liverpool, because I'm not obsessed with Isak. I think he is the best, one of the best, if not the best striker in the world, but you can't have them all. And he wasn't that interested in coming to Arsenal Football Club. We didn't have a divine right to get him. And he clearly wants to go to Liverpool. I think it's pretty clear. I actually don't think Liverpool get him this season. I think next season it's pretty much guaranteed. Stamp signed, sealed. I think it'll take an extremely big bid in order for Liverpool to get him this season. I think he has 3 years left on his contract. I think it's a really bad, and we need to think about all the clubs, think about PR and all that kind of stuff. It's a very, very bad look if the first time Newcastle wins this trophy, wins the Carabao Cup, and they're back in the Champions League, and they're now they're finally starting to build momentum. And the first thing they do in the summer transfer window is sell their world-class striker. It's just bad look. And this is a team that has aspirations of winning stuff. And while I do think financially getting the money probably might help them in the long run, I think doing it at this moment when he has 3 years on his contract and not actually having a punt, another go at the Champions League, I think it's just too bad of a look. And to be honest, I think they sign at Ekitike and get Isak and just run both of them. And then, because that's exciting for them if they could run both of them in the Champions League next season. And I think they'll probably get, I'm not sure, they'll probably get 5th again. And then they sell Isak to Liverpool, because I think Isak is Liverpool bound. It was either going to be Liverpool or Barcelona, and Barcelona's broke and they ain't gonna pay the fees. So I think Liverpool's going to get him. Concerning the Rodrygo thing, I think there's a really, really good chance that Rodrygo goes to Liverpool if Liverpool puts up the money. I think, honestly, if Arsenal put the money on the table, he comes to Arsenal. Personally, I think the draw of London is huge. It's one of the biggest attractions here. And the fact that our team were extremely good, plus all our players are entering their prime, I think that's pretty much attractive thing for Arsenal, because Rodrygo is at the same age of all our best players, and he's coming in, and all of us are all the players at Arsenal right now are entering their primes. He's going to be the players that he has that he's going to be playing with for years. And I think people think footballers think like fans. Footballers don't think like the fans. They're thinking about the long game. You know what I'm saying? And they're not Arsenal's complete garbage. They're crap. I will never go to Arsenal. They will never win a trophy. Players just don't think like that. You know what I'm saying? And but I do think it's a really, like, if both of us put the money on the table, I think it's like a 50-50. It's really, really tough. Concerning the Chelsea for Eze thing, I think that's hogwash. I don't think he goes to Chelsea. I don't think he just doesn't fit their wage structure, and he's not their age profile either. And they have Cole Palmer and like a billion tens. They have like a bill.
Just bought a left winger as well in Byron Gittins. So the two positions that he plays, that
and I'm pretty sure João Pedro could play the 10 as well. Like, they just have too many. Like, I feel like I can't see like a serious player in their prime going to Chelsea right now, just because of how many players they have, and just it's just weird, to be honest. Like, Chelsea's just such a conundrum right now because they're doing well, but with their wage structure and how much players they're getting, I just can't see them going.
World-class players, probably you're looking at Chelsea with a bit of a question mark about, are you going to match my ambitions in the immediate future? So Chelsea, we have no idea when they're going to suddenly flip the switch and go, right, we're buying world-class because we're now going to challenge for the league. Or whether it's still going to be, look, we're going to buy young players who are going to develop in the next couple of years and then we'll be ready. A world-class player might look at it at the minute and go, I can't commit now because if it's 3 years down the line, I've committed 3 years to a club that can't match my ambitions at this point. So I do agree on that point with the whole world-class players are a little bit iffy at the minute, especially in positions where there's a lot of players around them. So like on the right wing, for example, where they got Neto and they've got players like that. A world-class player goes, look, I can get into that team, but how do I know I fit into their immediate plans to match my ambitions in the short term? I think with back to the Rodrygo point quickly as well. I think it comes down to but we have to understand that players, I agree, that they're not looking at it with the lens that some fans do of, Arsenal haven't won a trophy in 6 years this year. I'm never going to play for them, whatever. But I think that Liverpool this summer have kind of thrown a spanner in the works with everyone's sort of perception of them. The perception of Liverpool was they're not going to buy world class. They'll develop world class. If they go in for these big players with big money, whatever, it won't really happen. They can't afford it. And then we've went and took Florian Wirtz from City and Bayern quite easily and quite quickly. Isak, the best striker on the market, albeit it's not the greatest market, but it's still the best striker on the market, is seemingly wants to join us. I think that's throwing a spanner in the works with the clubs going, they can attract these players, and they're seemingly showing no signs of slowing down. And again, with the Isak point, I don't think he comes next year. I think Liverpool have to box off their striking situation this summer. We have a 2-year window. We have to maximise to get the most out of Salah, Van Dijk.
Actually, that's something I didn't think about. That's actually true.
We can't do a year where we buy a Mateta and go, we'll wait. We'll wait a year for the right guys to come available. Yeah. I think our plan when they signed their 2-year deal was, right, what can we do to maximise the next 2 years? And that's get world class where you can, who can immediately help. And then once Salah and Van Dijk depart, they're ready to take the mantle of the marquee players at the football club. That's why I don't think that Liverpool's mindset this summer is, well, we can't get Isak now, but we might get him next summer. So you know what? We'll wait. We'll buy a Mateta, or we'll buy I don't know, an Ollie Watkins or whatever for the year. They'll do all right, and then we'll go for Isak next summer. I think Liverpool's mindset is, look, we need a guy that we back. Isak is number one. We will go all out for Isak. If we cannot get him, we move to Ekitike, who's number two, and we ride it out with Ekitike. Yeah, right. But I don't think Liverpool go, because that's a mindset we had in the past, especially with the Van Dijk situation, where it was we couldn't get him in the moment, so we'll wait for him. But our schedule and our time that we've got left to maximise is a lot different than that was a building phase. Right now is a win now phase. So I think for Isak, I think it's been communicated that it's now or never, basically, for him to Liverpool.
Yeah, I got your initial point, Cal, where you said it's a bad look. And I think that's one way of, again, us viewing it. There's also the other side. And I think it's always sometimes important to remember the initial plan for Newcastle. And I remember there wasn't a single level-headed Geordie that I spoke to when they first got taken over 5 years ago, where they said it was sort of a 10-year project. They thought it would take them 10 years to genuinely compete year in, year out, to get to a point to compete year in, year out for titles. They're about halfway through that. They've started winning trophies and getting in the Champions League. Most clubs that The only disadvantage they have compared to Fergie rebuilding United in the 80s, as an example, Liverpool being rebuilt by FSG, is they don't have the size of fan base those clubs have in the income. So the money isn't the same. The difference they have between them and when Chelsea got taken over by Roman and the Sheikh at City is FFP and PSRs in place from day one. And in fact, it's become tighter, where Chelsea had a decade of free spending. City got 4 or 5 years where they could spend unlimitedly.
Mm-hmm.
So you often have to take a step back before you move forward. And I actually think that that's why, for me, they may look at this and go, if they could get 150 million, including add-ons for him, and then invest that wisely into Ekatike's, a better goalkeeper, a world-class, if they could, centre-back as an example, they might find they actually improve more as a squad over the next 2 years. Because the thing with Isak, I know he's not that old, like 26, but by the time they actually get to a point where they might be able to start winning league titles and compete regularly, he might be past his best anyway. So there is that element of striking while the iron is hot, increasing those revenues, improving your squad. Because look, Isak's very good, and he had an amazing year last year. But without sounding horrible, he only got just over 20 league goals. He didn't score 30 league goals, 40 league goals. I don't think with you bring in an Ekatike and then maybe another type of attacking midfield player. Say they went and got Morgan Rogers and throwing that name out there. You could replace his goals. You could make the squad stronger as well. So I get your point. It's not a good look, but I hate saying this. And maybe it's because I'm fearful of it that I think this. I just think Liverpool are going to fucking do it, the sons of bitches. Like, I really, really do think they are. This here says, finally an Arsenal fan with his head screwed on, is what Carl says here. Appreciate that. Look, I know there's a lot of you waiting backstage. I'm going to go live again this evening, okay? And we'll take more calls and we'll try and get some different faces on as well, I promise. I'm so sorry I can't take any more. It's just in just over a couple of hours, I'm going live on the United Stand. So if you want to join me over there, 2 p.m. UK time, I'm on the United Stand. 3:15, I'm back here on the Football Terrace with Mo and Hussam on Straight Facts. So this is going to redirect you to that so you can get yourselves ready for it. But tonight, barring anything crazy, I'll do another show like this and we'll open the lines. We'll get some, I'll take the calls a little bit earlier in the show so we can get some more on, okay? Because I want to hear from as many of you as possible. Thank you all for tuning in. It means a great deal to me when you do that. Make sure you like and share. But please get the notification button turned on. I'm going to keep talking about this every day until my lips turn blue because YouTube's a bump. YouTube is a bump, I'm telling you now. So I need you to help us by clicking that little thing there and then go onto your settings on your phone and turn them on. I know about 500 to 600 of you have done it in the last couple of days because we get the notifications through. We just need to get the need to get the numbers matching the amount of people that are subscribed. That would be amazing. But listen, everyone, until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.